Placing numbers on a number line. Now we've done it for years and years, our whole numbers. So this time we're looking at placing decimal numbers on a number line. So first things first, we need to draw ourselves a naked number line. So I'm going to rule 10 centimeters from the bottom and 10 centimeters from this side. Join my two dots up. And now I have a straight line. Now, make it go all the way across the page, like so. Now what we need are some numbers. Here are my numbers. I've got 6 different numbers here. You can see, I'll put a box around each one. 2 numbers, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I need to place them from smallest to largest. Now it's not as easy as going, well that's small and that's large, so therefore they go on either end. It's not as easy as that. We need to space them out because some numbers are closer together than others. They're not equally distanced. So 6/10 and 66/100 are relatively close together compared to 5/100. So before I start anything, I've got my naked number line. I need some reference points. I need to know where to start and where to end. So I look at my numbers. All of my numbers are bigger than 0. So my reference point is going to be 0 because all my numbers are larger than 0. Now I need to look. I've got a number larger than 1. Okay, excellent. So what I might do is place my 1 in the middle because 1 and 2/10 is between 1 and 2. If I added 8 more tenths to my 1, I'd have 2 or 20 tenths. So now I've got some reference points. I now know where to place some of these parts. Now a number line is not supposed to be perfect by any means because really if I wanted it perfect I'd have to divide this number line into 200 parts. That would take forever. So I'm going to estimate. I'm going to estimate where roughly they should be. So first things first, I need to compare my numbers, but how do I do so? How do I do so? Well, I need to draw them. All right, so the first step in placing our numbers on a number line, when we're beginning to learn, we need to draw our numbers. So I'm going to start from left to right in this order, so it's easier for me. Here I go. I read this number: 1/10 2/100 or 12/100. So what I'm going to get? I'm going to get a hundreds square, hundredths, and I'm going to shade in 12/100. Remember, 10/100 makes 1/10. So here's my first one. Now what I might do is draw here 0 and 12/100. There you go, here's my first one. And I go to my next one, 9/10. So I'm going to need my tenths. So I've got a tenths here. I've got 3 already shaded in, luckily, and I shade the rest in. Now I could call my 9/10 90/100 if I wanted to, because remember, for every tenth I get 10/100. So that's another way we can compare. And I know that 90 is larger than 12, so therefore 90/100 is larger than, 12/100 is smaller than 9/10 or 90/100. So all I need to do now is draw my number, 9/10. Okay. Next step. This one's a little bit bigger. I've got a hole, so I've got my hole here pre-drawn, and I've got 2/10. So I'll need to get a tenths picture. Here's my tenths. I've already one shaded in, and I shade the other one in. So these two are together, so I'm just going to write 1 2/10 Don't get confused there. I've just run it on both so they match. I've got my next one is 6/10. So I'll get my tenths out again. I shade in 6 of my 10. So I've got 6 out of 10 parts. So I've got less than 1. If I shaded them all in, I'd have a whole. Write that down. I've got 2 to go. 66 hundredths, or 6/10 and 6 hundredths. So what I'm going to do, since I'm dealing with hundredths, I'm going to get my hundredths block. I've got 31 shaded in, so I'm going to shade in another 3. Nearly there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns of 10/10. That's 60 hundredths. And now I need to shade in 6 hundredths in the next one, so I have the same number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 66 hundredths, or 6/10 and 6 hundredths. Let me write this on. And finally, I've got my last one, which is hundredths. Purely hundredths, no other number. So I'm going to get my hundredths again. I've already got 4 shaded in, so I shade in 5. And I write my number. Okay. So now that I've visualized. Now, normally I can do this in my head, but for this instruction, I've drawn the pictures to help you realize how easy it is when you can visualize a number. So, all I need to do now is start with smallest to largest. I need to find my smallest. Well, I can look. 5 hundredths is definitely my smallest, so I'm going to put it down here, closest to 0. Because if I took those 5 away, I'd have 0. What's my next smallest? 12 hundredths is looking pretty small compared to the rest, so I'm going to put that here. This is not my final spot just yet, so don't worry. What's my next part? Well, 6/10 is definitely smaller than 9/10 and smaller than 66 hundredths. And they're very close. I'm going to put them like this. 9/10 is definitely smaller than 1. So I've got to move a little bit of space. And 1 and 2/10 is not close to 2. It's closer to my 1. So it's going to be close to my 1. So I'm going to stagger these because I'm running out of room. My 9/10 up here. 9/10 is very close to 1, so it's going to be up here. So I'm going to start gluing these in. And of course my glue stick would run out. Alright, 1 and 2/10 is definitely not closest to 2, so it needs to be closer to the 1. Now, since I've got such big images, I'm going to say that's halfway, so that must be 1 and 5/10. So roughly 1 and 2/10 is here, just roughly speaking. Now I put my 9/10. It's not exactly 1, so it's a little bit less. So I put it just close enough. And I'm going to put it just here. I've got 6/10 is very close to 5/10, and 5/10 is half of 1. So that's about here. So my 6/10 and my 66/10 are very close. So I'm going to have my 66/10 here and my 6/10 here. Now again, these are rough estimates, not for perfect measurement. Just had to get a new glue stick. So I'll glue I know that 66 hundredths or 6/10 and 6 hundredths is bigger than my 6/10, so it's got to be closer to my 1, but not as close as 9/10. This has got to be pretty close because they're actually quite close together. All right, so these lines here indicate where they're supposed to be on our number line. All right, so if you're getting a little bit confused, the lines are there to help you. Now, I've got 12 hundredths. Well, if this was 6 tenths and this is 1/10, it's got to be pretty close down here. Because 12 hundredths, as you can see by the picture, is not far away from 0 itself. And finally, we've got our 5 hundredths, which is even closer to 0. So I'm going to put my line here. And there we have it, from smallest to largest, and they are spaced apart based on their number.